I slept with my friend's mother as a dare, and he knew about it. I'm 22 years old. I study engineering at a public university, and I share an apartment with two roommates in the city center. I've never really stood out in any particular area, but I've always known how to make myself noticed by those around me. My friends consider me the one who never says no to a dare. At first, it was harmless stuff. Drinking something disgusting, talking to a stranger, running naked down the dorm hallway. But this was different. This was too much. It all started on a regular night, with cheap beers, the smell of fried food, and an improvised poker game. It was me, Nico, my best friend since high school, Leo, and Jorge. At the time, Nico's mother, Viviana, was staying at his place for a few days after having minor surgery. Nico is an only child, and even though he's lived alone for years, his mother still visits him quite often. Viviana is the kind of woman who turns heads. It's not just her looks, though I have to admit, at 43, she looks incredible. It's her confidence, her soft but firm voice, that energy that makes everyone stop and listen when she talks. She always dressed modestly but elegantly, with blouses that subtly hinted at her figure, not trying to be provocative, yet inevitably drawing attention. I never said it out loud, but ever since I met her when we were 17, I felt something for her. Something weird, uncomfortable, forbidden. Viviana was always kind to me, but not especially close. Not like she was with the others, at least. Yet every time she greeted me, her perfume lingered with me longer than it should have. And sometimes, when I thought no one was watching, I'd silently stare at her, wondering what it would feel like to be truly close to her. That night, amid raunchy jokes and laughter that barely covered hidden truths, Nico dropped a bomb. "I bet you $1,000 you can't sleep with my mother." The words landed like a stone in water. At first, everyone laughed, thinking it was just another one of Nico's usual jokes. But his face remained serious, as if it wasn't just a passing provocation. Leo stopped laughing and looked away. Jorge cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. I froze. "Are you serious?" I asked, half joking. "Do I look like I'm playing?" He replied without blinking. I stared at him. There was something strange in his tone. It wasn't anger or contempt. It was more like emptiness. A hollow tone, like someone who had given up on something invisible. In his eyes, there was no real challenge, just resignation. "Why would you do that?" Leo asked quietly, barely audible. "Because I want to know if anyone else sees what I see," Nico said, looking at his empty glass. "I want to see if someone else dares to cross the line I never could." No one really understood what he meant, but something in his words made my stomach turn. I said it almost impulsively, without thinking too much about the consequences. "I accept." Nico smiled. It wasn't a kind or ironic smile. It was bitter, almost broken. Later that night, Jorge grabbed my arm when we went to get more beer from the corner store. "Are you sure about this?" he said in a low voice. "I think Nico's not okay. I've noticed him acting strange for days. Like he's looking for an excuse to break something." "Break what?" "I don't know. Something in his head. His family. Everything." We walked back in silence. But the dare had already been made. And though I wouldn't admit it out loud, a part of me wanted to do it even without the money. That same week, Viviana showed up at the apartment again. I stopped by to say hi, trying to act normal. But in my head, some kind of mechanism had already been activated, and I couldn't turn it off. I started talking to her more, asking her questions, staying longer at her place. She seemed to enjoy my company, or at least didn't avoid it. Every conversation felt like a carefully measured dance between politeness and something more. The way she looked at me began to change. It wasn't easy. Weeks went by, and each time I felt more trapped. Not just by the dare, but because I genuinely started to feel obsessed. I couldn't stop thinking about her, about how she crossed her legs, about how she looked at me when she didn't know I was watching, about what happened if I just got closer. Sometimes I catch myself daydreaming about her in class, imagining her voice saying things that had never been said. I felt guilty, but I couldn't stop. One Friday night, everything changed. Nico went to a party, and I knew Viviana was alone at his place. I came up with some excuse to drop by. "Hey, I forgot my wallet the other day. Can I stop by and get it?" She said yes, with a calm smile. She offered me coffee. I sat down in the dining room. We talked. A lot. More than usual. She told me about her divorce, about how lonely she had felt lately, about how she sometimes felt invisible, even in her own life. I just listened and nodded, my heart pounding like crazy. When we finished the coffee, an odd silence fell. Not too long, not too short. Just dense, full of something neither of us could name. And then I did it. I got closer. Not suddenly. It was a clumsy move, almost adolescent. I put my hand on hers. She didn't pull away. She just looked at me. Are you sure about what you're doing? She asked, in a tone that wasn't rejection or approval. It was a warning. No, I said, but I want to do it anyway. What followed was like a slow motion movie. We kissed, nervously, with pent-up desire. We ended up in her bedroom. It wasn't the wild, passionate encounter I had imagined for weeks. It was slow, intense, confusing. I felt her skin tremble under my fingers, her breath shaky against my ear. I was trembling too, not from fear, but from the forbidden, from knowing that once this line was crossed, nothing would ever be the same. And the worst, the best, was that she wanted it too. It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't a one-sided game. It was real, desperately real. After the first time, I left without saying much. She didn't say much either. We sat in silence, like it had all been a mistake neither of us wanted to acknowledge. But the next day, Nico called me. Did you do it? I froze. What? You know, with my mother. Did you do it? I didn't answer. The silence was enough. I knew it, he said, and hung up. I didn't know what to do. Why did he say it like that? What did that tone mean? Was he angry? Proud? Just trying to test me? The following weeks were hell. Viviana avoided me. Nico too. But he didn't confront me. Until one night, Jorge sent me a message. Meeting at Leo's. It's urgent. I went. Everyone was there, and that's when everything exploded. Do you want to know what happened that night? Why Nico made that dare? Is he sick? Did he know more than he let on? I'll update if this doesn't get deleted first. I'll post more if anyone wants to read the continuation. Things got way darker than I expected. Update 1. After that damn phone call, with Nico saying he knew everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that things had taken a far darker turn than I'd ever imagined. I was nervous, too nervous, and yet, part of me didn't want to run. There was something twisted, perverse, pulling me forward. Why hadn't Nico confronted me directly? Why didn't he show even the slightest remorse after finding out what had happened between his mother and me? 3 days passed since that conversation, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. What did Nico want with that challenge? Did he really think he could gain something from it? Or was he so fragile that he needed to destroy what was left of his family, of his own mother? I felt guilty, but at the same time, something was dragging me deeper into the chaos. That night, I got a message from Jorge, meeting at Leo's house. It's urgent. Come quickly. The word urgent echoed in my head. Something told me this meeting would be the key to understanding everything. This wasn't just another hangout. If Viviana was involved, things had already spiraled out of control. It was clear this wasn't about a challenge anymore. It was something much bigger, something darker. The weight of what I had done was beginning to crush me. When I arrived at Leo's house, the door was ajar. The dim light in the hallway cast eerie shadows on the walls, as if the house itself was hiding something. Inside, the atmosphere was strange, not just because of the darkness or the meeting itself, but because the air felt heavy. Heavy with something I couldn't yet grasp. As I stepped in, the first thing I saw was Leo on the couch, Jorge sitting beside him. Both looked tense. No smiles. No words. Just a thick, uncomfortable silence. What's going on? I asked, trying to break the ice. Jorge looked up, but it was Leo who answered. We need to talk about Nico, and about your relationship with his mother. My stomach dropped. The way Leo said those words chilled me to the bone. Your relationship with his mother. It was like everyone knew. Like nothing I had done, or not done, mattered anymore. My breath quickened. What are you talking about? I asked, trying not to sound too nervous. Leo stared at me, and for a second, I knew. He wasn't the same Leo the first used to know. There was something in his eyes, some bottled-up desperation that made me question everything. Listen, he said in a low voice, almost afraid of being overheard. Nico isn't who you think he is. What he did with you, it wasn't just a game. He didn't just want to see how far you'd go. He needed to prove that someone, even you, could break their own morals, their own limits. Jorge nodded silently. Yeah, and now, what we're dealing with isn't just a challenge. Nico has a plan that involves his mother. And I swear, if we don't figure out what's going on, it's going to be too late for all of us. My mind was spinning. What the hell did Nico want? Why hadn't he just talked to me directly? None of it made sense. What plan? I asked, now terrified of the answer. Leo leaned forward, and the weight in his eyes made me fear the worst. This isn't just about you, or his mother, or even his family. Nico has something in his mind, something about control, about proving to the world, or at least to himself, that no one is safe. He doesn't care if he has to destroy what's left of his life to get what he needs. Jorge rubbed his face, like trying to push away something haunting him. It's deeper than that, isn't it? The challenge wasn't just to test you. It was part of something bigger. Nico wanted you to cross that line for him, so that by doing so, he could feel like he had power over the one thing he holds sacred, his mother. And in his mind, That's the only thing he can still control. My eyes widened. This wasn't just about a stupid challenge. Nico was playing with something much darker. Viviana, the woman I thought was untouchable, was caught in a web of manipulation I couldn't even begin to understand. How do you know all this? I asked, my voice shaking. Leo looked down, like he was choosing every word carefully. Then he looked back into my eyes, because Nico started changing a while ago. He didn't just start messing with dangerous stuff. He started manipulating everyone around him, his own mother included. We know she's been going through a lot lately, and Nico has been there in his own twisted way, manipulating her. If this ends the way he wants, it's going to be worse than you think. Jorge stood up, pacing the room with clear discomfort. Nico's pushing things too far. What he did with you, he can't just walk away from that. And now the only way forward for him is to go even further. What if this isn't about winning anymore? What if he's playing to destroy? Silence wrapped around me. I couldn't understand everything, but one thing was clear. Nico was no longer the boy I thought I knew. There was something in his behavior, something almost psychopathic. Calculated. He wanted to see others suffer, especially his mother. He wanted to own everything, even the people who loved him most. And me? I've been a piece in his plan without even realizing it. The thought that my relationship with Viviana was part of such a twisted manipulation tore at me. But deep inside, a mix of fear and desperation told me this wasn't over. What do we do now? I asked, my voice tight. Leo stared at the wall, unsure what to say. It was clear none of us really knew how to stop what Nico had set in motion. But one thing was certain. This was no longer just a game. There was something much bigger at play, and no one, not even Viviana, was safe. What will Nico do next? Why is he willing to destroy his own mother? And what will happen when his true plan is finally revealed? Leave your comments if you want to know what happens next. The story gets even darker. Update 2. I'm not going to beat around the bush this time. What I discovered that night, and what came after, completely changed the way I saw Nico, Viviana, and myself. What seemed like a stupid dare ended up being just the tip of the iceberg of something much darker. After the meeting at Leo's house, I couldn't sleep. What they said made sense, but still sounded like a theory. I needed proof, something concrete, and I got it the next day in the worst way possible. Viviana wrote to me. She hadn't done that since that night at her house. Her message was short, dry, like she always is when she wants to keep her distance. I need to see you. It's urgent. I'm alone. That phrase made me swallow hard. Not just because of the tone, but because something inside me knew this time it wasn't about sex or tension or even regret. There was fear in that message. I went. When I opened the door, I found Viviana without makeup, with dark circles, wearing a gray robe and holding a half-finished cup of tea. She asked me to sit down. Her voice was trembling. What she told me next, I'll never forget. Nico hates me, she said bluntly. He doesn't say it, but I feel it. I've always felt it. I asked her to explain. I didn't understand what she meant. A couple of years ago, I found a journal in his room. A black notebook. It wasn't a normal diary. It was more like a logbook. He wrote down what he thought about me. And it wasn't nice stuff. She got up, walked to the living room cabinet, and came back with a worn-out notebook. She handed it to me, and I saw it with my own eyes. Pages filled with tightly written sentences that chilled me to the bone. She ruined my life. I was never enough for her. She doesn't see me as a son. She sees me as a burden. I want to see her break. I want to see her knowing she failed as a mother. I tried to talk to him, Viviana said, her voice breaking. He told me it was part of the therapy exercise. I shouldn't take it literally. But after that, things started to change. He became colder, more distant, and I started noticing strange things. What things? Women he dated, they looked like me. Same haircut, same perfumes. They'd message me by mistake, send me photos, like he was trying to find something, or someone to replace me, or humiliate me. I was struggling to process what I was hearing. Viviana, always so composed, now trembled in front of me like a broken woman. And why did he involve me? She looked at me, and that was the hardest part, because you were the only friend he considered untouchable. He once told me, if someone like him falls for me, it means there's no turning back. That's when it all made sense. The dare wasn't impulsive or a drunken joke. It was premeditated, calculated, planned. Nico knew I had repressed feelings for his mother. He knew that if he offered money and the public challenge of winning, I'd fall for it. Because he knew me. Because he wanted me to fall. And not just that, he wanted me to feel guilty. He wanted me to hate myself. He wanted Viviana to hate me. And he wanted all of us trapped in this mental game with no escape. You know the worst part? Viviana said, now sitting again. Part of me allowed it. Part of me felt relieved. Because for years, Nico manipulated me, emotionally blackmailed me, told me that if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd hurt himself, that he needed me close, that he couldn't live without me. And I became a hostage to his sadness. That's why I let you get close. Because for a second, I felt free. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should console her, apologize, scream, cry. It was too much. What's he gonna do now? I asked. Viviana looked at me, wide-eyed. I don't know. But if he did all this to you, if he planned so much just to hurt me, then I have no idea how far he's willing to go. And that's when she told me the most disturbing part. She said that a few days before the dare, Nico had started researching how to file a report for harassment by a relative. He had printed pages, highlighted legal terms, screenshots, conversations between us. Everything. If he wants to destroy you, he already has everything he needs, she said. The only question is, what is he waiting for? And that's when I realized I'm not the victim. Not even Viviana is. Nico has become the silent executioner of all of us. And chances are, this isn't over. It's just beginning.